5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome. This is Councilwoman Kathleen Murphy. This is the community meeting regarding the special exception request at the BZA. That case number is 2020-207. The addresses that this case is addressing will be 3713 West End Avenue and 101 Leonard are the two property addresses. So again, welcome to our district's first virtual community meeting. I hope this goes well. We do have a question and answer box that you're able to type in if you're an attendee. And if you're a call-in user, I think there's a way to raise your hand. If not, you're welcome to email a question over to me. I'll be watching my email inbox during this when we get to questions and answers. And so the way that we're going to handle this is I am going to switch over to displaying a PDF. I'm not sure if you can see it now, but I have the PDF presentation that the applicant has provided to me. I will let them do their presentation, and then we can do some questions and answers after that. And so, again, this is going to be decided at the Board of Zoning Appeals as a special exception request on November 5th. This is not something that goes on to the Metro Council or the Planning Commission. The Board of Zoning Appeals is the adjudication decision makers for this request and application. So, I think, Kevin, will you let me know, is the PDF screen up?
Yes, ma'am. It is.
Okay.
Well, the map is up there, so
okay.
The floor plan. Yep.
So the map is up, and so if you are on WebEx on your computer, on your screen, you should be able to see on the left-hand side a way to enlarge the image or make it smaller. And so you are welcome to do that on your own screen, and we can do that. I can do that as well on here, but let's try to run through the presentation, and then we can get into more specifics and zoom in and zoom out as necessary then as well. So I'll hand it over to Chip Holworth, and if you would like to begin y'all's presentation as the applicant, and let me know what I need to change on the screen.
Sure. Can everybody hear me?
You're good to go.
Yes.
All right. Sounds good. I appreciate everyone's time. Maybe it's a good day for everyone to be inside doing a WebEx. I also appreciate y'all making us your first one. So I've got, by way of introduction, also I've got my client, Lee Zoller here, as well as, and I just managed to screw up my screen here, as well as Dan Tanti. But I will be running most of the show, so I'll be fielding most of the questions. So just to kind of get started, I thought it'd be helpful. Take a step back. My client has had a lot of conversations with a lot of you. I've had conversations with a lot of you. We've all had conversations with Councilmember Murphy. So there's a lot of information out there, and we know that. And so our aim today is try and present the information and the requests that we have in as clear and concisely a way as possible to address all that information that is out there, because I know when people receive these Board of Zoning Appeals letters, sometimes they can be confusing, and, sometimes that confusion can get transmitted. So the hope and goal for this meeting from our side is to make sure that everyone understands what we're asking for and moving forward from there. So as you can see on Councilmember Murphy's screen, what I've got here is I've got a series of slides in an attempt to show the request. So this slide I'll just term as the existing conditions. Everyone on this call, I presume, is very familiar with both West End, which is at the top of the screen there, and Leonard, which is right in the middle of the screen. The property we're referencing is the one in the top left box. As you can see those two apartment units, and I'm using my mouse, so I know no one else is using their mouse. Two apartment units there on 3717 West End. Leonard is a bit unique given its current size because of the amount of right-of-way that currently exists. 70 feet of right-of-way currently exists. And when I say right-of-way, what I mean is property that is not owned by a private individual, but that is owned by Metro. So the red lines that you see on this screen delineate the property that is owned by Metro. As you can see, and you may have to zoom in a little bit to see it, that includes a significant chunk of property on both 3717 as well as 101 Leonard. In fact, the exact measurement from the existing curve that is on Leonard right now, as you can see, there's that black arrow with the measurement in the middle, to the existing right-of-way is 25 feet 9 inches. That's how much right-of-way is currently exists there now and is owned by Metro. The existing building, we have units 1 and unit 2. Unit 2 is the one that is the closest to Leonard, is only 9 feet 2 inches from that existing right-of-way. As you scroll down the page, or I guess if you look across the street, you can see that the house at 3715 West End is 16 feet 7 inches from the right-of-way. If you scroll down, 115 Leonard is 8 feet, as well as, I forget the number for the house on Whitland, 3730 Whitland is 8 feet away from the right-of-way. And on the other side at 3708 Whitland is 9 feet 7 inches from the right-of-way. So while there exists sidewalk, there exists grass and yard and things like that, a lot of that area is actually owned by Metro. So this is the existing condition as it sits now. Now, from a zoning perspective, you have two different zones here. On 3717, and why this is important, let me take a step back. Why this is important is because setbacks are measured from your right-of-way. So our zoning on our two properties is RM40. That is the same zoning across the street at 3715 West End. The two properties behind us, or sorry, to the south, are both zoned R8. I know this is a very savvy neighborhood, so I'm probably not going to explain too much what those zonings mean. However, all four of these properties are on corner lots. So the Metro Code requires the application of two front setbacks because they're corner lots. So for RM40, these two properties here to the north, that would require an application of a 30-foot setback from the right-of-way. As you can see, and already discussed, that would mean that the 16 foot 7 inches on 3715 West End is half as big as it needs to be, and the 9 feet 2 inches for the current building on 3717 is a third of as big as it needs to be. Also, on the two properties to the south, that setback requirement for R8 is 20 feet. So neither of the properties on Whitland that have frontages on both Leonard and Whitland, they actually don't comply with setback requirements either. So Leonard, in essence, is just a weird street with a weird right-of-way that goes up and down and is uniformly weird across Leonard. If we go to that next slide. So the next slide is essentially, and it's a little hard to see on my screen, so it may be hard to see on everyone else's screen too. The same red lines are there, but they're laid over a Google image. You may have to kind of zoom in to see them. So that just essentially gives context to where all the buildings live as it relates to the right-of-way on Leonard right now. So if you, again, you can see that they're pretty close all the way up and down Leonard on both sides of Leonard, from both West End and Woodland. If we can go to that next slide. Now, I've taken the first slide with the right-of-ways, and you can still see the houses on 3715 West End, as well as the two Woodland properties, and overlaid our site plan on it. If you'll remember, the existing Unit 2 apartment is currently 9 feet 2 inches from the right-of-way. Our building program that we're showing here, we're proposing a setback of 5 feet. So in essence, the setback that we're looking for is 4 feet in front of where the existing building lives today. As you can see, there's some other elements here that I'm going to get into in a minute in terms of the parking, but this is essentially our app. So if you scroll to the south on this image, you can see that it lines up really close with the houses, the two houses to the south in terms of where the right-of-way lives on Leonard and where those houses live with relation to the right-of-way. Can we go to that next slide? This is just a zoomed in version of the site plan, and we've rotated it a little bit. So on this site plan, West End is to the right, and Leonard is to the bottom of the page. Mine didn't load all the way, so it's hard to see. But as you can see, there is still, when we say right of way, it's the same thing as property line. You can see that where it shows property line, that's the same thing as the right of way. And then we can show 5 feet back or to the north on this plan is our request for setback, which lines up very closely again with 115 Leonard, which is on this page to the left. I can't see that. I see the labeling for parallel street parking, but hopefully I can get to that image here in just a second. Can we go to the next slide? So again, just another image showing how the building will live as it relates to both the right-of-way off of Leonard and the houses to the south, as well as the house to the east. So lining up, generally speaking, with the existing buildings and the facade, just trying to address this large chunk of this almost 26-foot chunk of right-of-way that's from our edge of curb to our property line. Can we go to the next slide, please? Zoom out a little bit on this one. Okay, so this is a view standing at the corner, basically standing in the middle of Leonard on West End, which I know no one wants to do. So this image is intended to make you show you kind of the feel of the building, the scale of the building, and the big important thing, in my opinion, for the purpose of this conversation, is we have had, again, through numerous conversations with neighbors, talking through pain points of the neighborhood. One of the things that was identified is people turning onto Leonard off of West End. A issue is people that park on the street. So we have this, on one hand, you can look at the right-of-way that exists as an issue. We're trying to use it to our advantage and also meet some of the neighborhood goals. One way we're attempting to do that is using what's shown here is where this car is inset parking. So we're going to have, planning on doing 4 parking spaces that will be in the right-of-way that exists currently. So we're going to try and take all the cars that currently park right on Leonard in front of those, right next to those 2 apartment complexes off the street entirely, which should give back almost a travel width lane onto Leonard again. So when people are, whether they're taking a right on the Leonard off of West End, making that curve, and or taking a left off of West End, I've heard both are equally tough, just sight distances and everything else. That's what those are intended to do. That parking is meant for people to use. That is not resident parking. We have overparked our building underground, under our building. We want to take all of our cars off the street. We want to take all of our guest cars off the street. And so that is for the neighborhood to use. That's for the Amazon guy to use. That's for the pizza delivery guy to use, whoever it is. Inset parking is intended to get the lawn truck, to get people off the street. So when they turn on to Leonard off of West End, they have a clear sight line. So 1, they can see other cars coming, and 2, see, kids riding bikes and things like that, making sure that there's nothing there. Let's move to the next slide. If we zoom in here, we took a look at the building from the West End side. This is a look at the building, what it would look like scale-wise when you're standing on Whitland looking up the street. Again, this is just intended to show some scale. Some things that actually I forgot to mention and isn't exactly shown on the previous slide is we've got some great trees here. Street trees up and down Leonard. We have 4 large street trees on our property on Leonard. Our intent is to do everything possible to keep those trees. We're working with Public Works, come up with an alternative sidewalk plan, which would allow us to install the sidewalk that's needed, but also minimize impact onto those trees. So again, trying to integrate into the neighborhood as much as possible. And what this slide is intended to show is just what that looks like, looking up from Whitland towards West End of what the property looks like. I think at this point I've got some floor plans here attached, as well as some other designs. The ask, if I could go back to slide 3. The ask is essentially we're trying to get treated like everybody else on Leonard in terms of setbacks. That's what we're looking for. I think, in my opinion, this image does a pretty good job of showing where our building is going to live on the property. We now can see, as you can see, there's that inset parking there right off of Leonard, which will get some of those cars off the street. We have the sidewalk shown, and then inside the sidewalk, we're trying to keep those trees that you can see very faintly on this plan. So we think that this plan meets some neighborhood goals, addresses some concerns, and is in line with what's currently existing in terms of setbacks with properties both across Leonard from us as well as to the south. I think at that point, I'm going to take a pause, take a beat for a minute, and see if my architecture team member, Dan Tansey, wants to add anything, put him on the spot.
All right, found the unmute button. No, I think everything you said is right on. We're just looking to be within the contextual setbacks that are already there on the street, and we're not asking for any height variances or anything like that. This is the only thing that we're asking for is this setback.
I think we're good. Happy to take any questions as needed.
Chip, I know that we're going to have some questions about the scenic highway and height of the building, so let's go ahead and address that. I will say that I've spoken with Metro Codes today and gone over how do they measure the scenic highway height restriction of 35 feet from the natural elevation. And so as a brief overview, and not to get into the total weeds of how they calculate 35 feet, but what they do is the front of this property on West End is roughly, I think from my notes and memory, is 100 feet across on West End. So every 25 feet, they will measure that elevation, and that is what they will average to establish what is the natural grade for this property at West End for the scenic highway height requirements. If you're not familiar with the scenic highway height requirements, that's something that is was put in state law in the 70s. West End corridor is a scenic highway in our district from certain points. And so once they establish what is the natural elevation on West End, the building can go up 35 feet from that natural elevation. We can go to I think they still have the other slides on here where it shows that, and when we were looking at this property from the Whitland intersection, you can tell that the property slopes backwards towards the back of the property and towards Whitland. And so where the building itself may not be 35 feet across, being the height all the way consistent across, it cannot go over that natural elevation plus 35 feet backwards. I hope that explains it well. That is a conversation that, Chip, I think your team might want to address, what calculations you are still doing on that, or if your elevations that we can show tonight are within that Metro Code's interpretation. So if Chip or Dan, y'all could address that, and I can go to that. I think it's one of your last slides.
Sure. So happy to show it if we need to. I appreciate the clarification there. I was talking into a muted microphone, so apologies. We know we have some work to do there for sure. As you know, we're still in the schematic phase, thinking through what everything looks like as, you know, we work through the schematic phase, and entitlements will be a big part of that. So we still have some work to do on the elevations. Just to be clear, We will not, we are not now, nor will we ever be seeking any type of variance or exception to allow us to do more than what is allowed by code under the Scenic Byway ordinance. So it'll be that 35 feet and the measurement, and then that's what we're going to comply with. And we will not be seeking relief at any time from that rule.
And Chip, let me clarify that. That is something you cannot seek relief from. That is the state law. So that is not something you can appeal to the BZA or something in SP zoning could supersede. That nice plug for my lovely father, as he loves when I do this. He put it in place in the 70s, and until that law is changed, that is the law of the land for West End. So at this point, I'm happy to open up for some questions. The height question was one that had come in through the Google survey that I put out in my email. If you are on the WebEx program and you have a question that you'd like to ask, you may type it into the Q&A box that is on the right-hand, the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen is where it should be. I think we all should look the same there. And I'm happy to start taking some there. And then we can also, I'll check my email as well. So the first question that I see is from Bob Flynn, and it says, will the area on Leonard that is not inset parking be signed no parking? And I just want to go ahead and let you know that when I was standing out there yesterday with neighbors, I noticed that when you turn onto Leonard off of West End, I think it's a speed limit sign and maybe like an old crime watch, neighborhood watch sign. Both of them are heavily just grimed up. They're pretty dirty. And so I've requested that they either be cleaned or replaced. And currently in the Metro Code, you are not allowed to park between within 15 feet of an intersection. And so I've requested that that be marked off as well. So those signs will be added because that currently is not legal parking. And so that way we could just go ahead and get that hopefully taken care of as well. So thank you, Bob. I hope that will take care of that question. Mary Beth, your question is, what is the blasting plan for parking underneath the building? So Chip, can you address your blasting and excavation plan for this property?
So that's more of a means and methods question. And I'm not exactly sure that I'm prepared to answer at this point. The construction timeline is, we're trying to move as fast as possible. So, and I'm not ducking it. I will get that answer, and I can circulate it back to you in an email and all that. But I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head. But the construction timeline is aggressive. The plan is to have this thing done from the time we pull permits to being complete in 10 to 12 months. So the idea being, we're going to try to minimize impact. I mean, it's good for us to get it done faster. It's good for the neighborhood to get it done faster. So that's the plan. And again, I hope that some of these conversations that people have had with my client are indicative of the fact that he does, you know, he's very familiar with the area, his kids go to school in the area, lives very close, like that this is, wants to be a good neighbor in this process. But I will revert back, get you that answer, and you can circulate that appropriately.
And so what I will do is after this meeting, probably not tonight, before this weekend, I will email blast out, which hopefully y'all will post on your listserv, the PDF of these slides that we've shown tonight. And I'm hoping we're being recorded, and I'll link to that as well as possible. So do we have and then also any information that Chip and the applicant's team provide that can't be answered tonight, or any more information, I'll put that in there as well. Are there any other questions that you'd like to submit? Okay, so Amy says, the developer mentioned integrating into the neighborhood, but this design does not fit at all with the surrounding historic neighborhoods, nor the other redevelopments along the West End Scenic Highway. Chip, would you like to address how you feel your property fits into the neighborhood?
I'm going to actually throw that over to Mr. Tangi, if he would be so kind.
Sure. So what we're trying to do is we are trying to propose a design that is, unique to the point where it offers something of a marketability standpoint. We are using standard, materials that you'll find in the neighborhood. We are using stone. We've got some masonry and some commercial style fiber cement. So we did look to the neighborhood as far as materiality, as far as the architectural components. We do have some more, I would say, some windows that are larger than, your standard residential window. Again, that's to maximize natural light and into the units. But from an architectural standpoint, we did look at the surrounding context from a materiality standpoint and tried to bring that to this project.
Okay, so sorry, I was looking at my email to check questions. Stephen asked, how tall is the rear of the proposed building off of the ground on the back side of the property? Will the structures on the roof be for outdoor living? Wait, I'm sorry, I'm struggling reading. Will there structures on the roof for outdoor living with roofs? Will there be structures on the roof? I'm sorry. So Chip, if you'd like to address the rear building elevation and the rooftop living, if you can, at this time.
Yeah, I think I want to let Dan jump in here on the rooftop question, sort of the program up there. We still have some work to do on our height. As Councilmember Murphy was so kind to tell us, we have no other option other than to do some more work. Very politely, she told us. But so we still have some work to do there. So I'm not sure if that elevation that we've shown in our plans will be representative of where we're going to live, where it's going to land. But after that, I will throw it to Dan on the rooftop programming piece.
At the moment, yes, there is intent to have some ability to, to enjoy the amenity roof on this project. So the structures that you see are only for vertical circulation. We do not have any roofed living space on those. Hopefully that answers the question. And we can, again, to reiterate with Chip, as far as heights, those are items that we're working on.
Okay. Do you have price points for these units?
Council Murphy, it's Lee Zoller. Yes, these units are going to be, I'm sorry, I've been battling a pretty bad sickness, but I'm here. I'm here and available. The units will be priced probably in excess of $2.2 million each. There's 8 units. I'd say they're going to probably, the majority of them, of the 8 will be in excess of $2.5 million each. These are considered to be a luxury for sale product, not for rent product. And if I may, as it relates to the design, after a number of meetings with a number of neighbors, I understand that there is some concern about the integration of our design with some of the neighborhood, and we are looking at different elements to soften the contemporary modern version of that, maybe change. We'll look at the rooftop patios. Those are meant to be private patios. We're going to look really hard at I guess, diffusing or minimizing the eye drawn to that, and look at other elements on the facade to incorporate it in and let it blend in with the neighborhood better. So I want to make sure I made that clarification as well.
Thank you. So Micah has a question. I've gone back to the slide where that shows the existing structure. I'm sorry, I didn't get back to the right one. So I'll go back to the slide with the existing structure. And then you also have a question in the rendering from the middle of Leonard facing the building. It looks like the existing duplex is shown in the background. So let me go through and see the existing building structure. So that's the setback one. This is the one looking at Leonard. Again, y'all can zoom in and out on your left. I'm hoping you can see when I zoom in and out. Okay. Slide 6 is what Mike is looking for. All right. Woo, now we're in the sky. Sorry, user error here. Okay. All right. So, Micah, did you have a question on this slide? You may be typing one in. And I'm checking emails to see if any are there.
There's no magic, those magic 3 dots to let you know they're typing.
No. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so Micah's comments, again, I'm not sure if everyone can see the Q&A, but I know people are called in, so I'll read them out. So his question is that this really does not look to be to scale because it looks like the duplex is in the background rather than the property that is immediately adjacent to your property. So can you address whether this is to scale or whether this was just, if this is an architectural or artistic rendering of what the building will look like?
And I can speak to that. So this is an architectural rendering. We did place some generic structures in the background as far as just providing some context, since we didn't provide any, or we didn't go and measure the existing building or the existing house behind it. So it just happened to look like the duplex. We were just trying to make some gesture towards context. So that is what that is representing. But as far as scale and everything like that, this is modeled based on the existing topography and everything that we're doing from the actual property standpoint. So it is to scale in that sense.
So overall, it's artistic rendering, somewhat to scale. I mean, it can't really be to scale because it doesn't have the other landmarkers around it. But the other, this one, where it shows from Whitland Leonard intersection looking up towards the building west end, is this to scale?
That as close as we can be. Obviously, this is a photo that we took, and then we integrated the view of the project into this photo.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions? If you want to put them in there in the box, that would be great. I'll check my email to see if there are other questions sent in. Okay, so there's another question. Can y'all, are there any other projects, similar projects like this one that you've done that you can give us addresses or locations of that we would be familiar with, or that we can go see what type of work to expect?
That to me seems more like an architectural based question, so I'm gonna let Dan and Lee take that one, and or Lee. No one cares what the civil guy does, as long as you don't have water on your property.
Right. So this as it relates to other projects. There are other projects here in town. They're not that's commercial. This is looked upon. I'm using the same commercial team that I've used in prior projects. This is the only residential project of which that Division Street is doing at the moment, and I don't have any other residential projects to show. Although STG Design has done a number of residential projects in Austin specifically that we can certainly share as it relates to the team, along with the rest of the deal team. But as it relates to Division Street, this would be the only residential project to show.
So something that in other BZA cases have come up, whereas if this is simply a request to reduce the setback on Leonard. It does not require, we have talked a lot about what the building looks like, the parking spaces, all of those types of things. Unlike a zoning plan, an SP zoning plan or something like that, that attaches the site plan to it, then the developer is tied to that site plan and those commitments in the SP zoning. What commitments are you willing to make or put as part of the BZA agreement if you were to be approved that guarantee to the neighborhood that this is the project you're going to be moving forward with, that this is the amount of parking spaces, and that type of architectural commitments, or for rent versus for sale, and the ability to pull Airbnb permits? Are you willing, I guess this question would be to Mr. Zoller, are you willing to make any of those commitments in writing that would be attached to the BZA order if you are successful for this side street setback?
You know, as a quick response, I'd be willing. This is a for sale product, and it's always intended to be a for sale product. It's not intended to be a for rent product. I'm willing to put that in writing. We will not be seeking any short-term rentals for this product. This is meant to be a long-term residence for the owners or a second home. So this is not meant to be those products. As it relates to the parking, we've worked very hard on a plan to have the parking all tucked underneath the building. If the envelope stays the same, I can agree and put in writing that the parking underneath the building will stay there. The 3 car parks in the unused right-of-way is something that we felt made it a better project, a safer Leonard Avenue, and so assuming that plan's approved, I'm committing to put that in as well. If I miss something, let me know. But as it relates to the design, I am taking all the comments in, and I am committing to doing what we can to incorporate different elements to address those concerns. Until I go through that full design, I can't say in writing what ultimately the end design ends, but I'm committing to address that. Those other items I can agree to in writing.
Okay. So the next question, I'm going to adapt a little bit too and change slides. The next question is about your proposed building is closer to your property line, which is also closer to the west end, or not the west end. The question is about the west end right of way. Let me start. The proposed building is closer to the west end right of way than the existing apartment structure, but it's still within the required setbacks. So Chip or whoever wants to address this, if you can address your west end front setbacks.
Muted, just in terms of what those are?
Yes, and is it closer than the existing building duplexes on site?
So I'm trying to check down. The answer to the second question is yes. It is closer than the existing buildings. So what we will be required to do as part of this development plan is we have to do a 8-foot grass strip. There's already grass strip that exists there. It's not 8 feet, to my understanding. It may be close. And then an 8-foot sidewalk. We have to dedicate an additional 6 feet of right-of-way to Metro. So that moves our property line further into our property. And then the setback by code is 30 feet. So what you're looking at ultimately is just under 50 feet from the existing curb you see on West End to the front of our proposed building.
Okay. So the next question is, if the city owns the large right-of-way, are the builders compensating Metro for taking over that property? So the Metro right-of-way is staying as is, and their building is not being built in the right-of-way. Their building will stay on their property, within their property lines, and they are proposing to do improvements to the Metro right-of-way. And so the development team will be paying for the sidewalks. They will be required to have so many trees per linear foot, just like any development. And the developer will pay for the landscaping and cutting of the increased curb and gutter through there. So it's not that they're not going to own the right of way. They are doing improvements that they will pay for in the right of way.
As well as paying for the inset parking that we're proposing.
Yes. And I've got an email question. So do they have to adhere to any building regulations as far as materials and design? That they do not. This is not in a historic or conservation overlay. So there are no design guidelines required other than your standard. If you were building anywhere, type of building requirements. So if you have another question, please feel free to type it in.
Okay, we do have Steve Searles that had his hand raised. His hand went away, so maybe he may be typing in. There it is again. I think he would like to ask a question, if that's okay.
Yes. If you can let him. I don't know what you need to make him to let him ask his question, but please go ahead.
There. I can ask it now, I think. Can you hear me?
Welcome, Steve.
Hello. I would like to find out if this property, the setback mirrors the property that's across the street that Mike Ford just recently completed. Does that make sense?
Steve, will you rephrase that a little bit? Are you asking how if it mirrors in size or setback?
This setback, does it mirror the same setback that Mike Ford used across the street on those condominiums?
Now, Steve, you've asked me about an SP that I passed within the first few months of my term in 2015.
Correct.
So I honestly don't remember the setback on that one. Chip, does your team have a broader view of setbacks on West End here?
No, not off the top of my head. Again, I knew that was an SP, so as I'm sure everyone knows, SP you get to write your own regulations, which are generally very close to what's allowed by code. So, but I don't have that SP in front of me, so I can't speak to what the setbacks were on Mike Ford's deal.
Okay, I would like to find out. It's just a sort of a point that if it's the same, the setback doesn't bother me. My second question is on the height, and that question has been asked before, but does it comply with the scenic highway restriction?
It will.
So Steve,
okay.
It will have to do that, and right now they don't have accurate elevations to demonstrate it.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for everything. I'm sorry I couldn't type my question in. I couldn't figure out how to do it.
That's okay, Steve. We have a question from Heidi that is about stormwater. Given the fact that the new structure will have a large footprint of solid surface compared to the current 3 buildings and grass yard around it. And so there are stormwater regulations that they will have to meet. That will be part of permitting, but to the applicant, Chip, and whoever else, what is your plan for stormwater? Have you run those traps yet? Will there be rain gardens or permeable pavers? What is your plan there?
Sure. So we will do some of those green infrastructure practices in the front. We don't want the entire front to be a rain garden, of course. Lee's has been very adamant that like he likes landscaping, he likes the green, he wants to make the front yard a showpiece. So that's the intent there. We don't want to muck it up with a bunch of stormwater stuff. We will probably be looking at, again, we'll have to comply with the regulations as it relates to capturing the appropriate amount of water and then treating it appropriately and taking it off site, whether that's through a stormwater extension, connecting into infrastructure, or some other method. But that is our plan right now. We don't want to, again, we want to make sure that the entire, this is a luxury product, so we want to keep as much luxury in the building as well as around the building as possible. So we're going to be trying to be as creative as possible with our stormwater to make sure that it's both effective and integrates into the project to achieve those project goals. Did I answer the question? I mean, I guess ultimately we haven't fully designed it yet is the answer to the question. You know, we're working through some of these things like figuring out setbacks, size, you know, where the building lives determines what we do from a stormwater perspective. So I don't have a full design to share with you yet. So I can just talk about goals and requirements that we're going to have to meet.
Okay. And as a reminder, the basic overview of stormwater is you are responsible to capture that first inch and retain it on your property. And that is, stormwater will review their plans before issuing any building permits. So if you have any other questions, please type them into the box or shoot me an email. Again, my email is kathleen.murphy@nashville.gov. And we'll just give it a minute to see if there are any other questions. I did forget to say at the beginning of this that I wanted to apologize. I know that many of you received a flyer notification for this meeting tonight that was missing a date. That was our fault in the council office. The wrong flyer got sent out, and so I wanted to just apologize for that and did not want people to think that we were trying to mislead anyone. That is just, when you're working remotely and virtually, we had an oopsie, so I apologize for that. Again, this is going to be heard at the Board of Zoning Appeals on November the 5th. You can email your opinion on this case, which is numbered 2020-207, to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Their email address is bza@nashville.gov. They will be the ones deciding on this. And so I'm not seeing any other questions come into the queue. And just checking my email again. We'll give it another minute to see if there are any other questions. Okay, so we were scheduled to wrap this up at 10. Oh, we've got some more questions. So what is the cutoff date to submit to the BZA? That honestly is something that I should remember. Chip, do you know that off the top of your head? It is. I can send that back out when I send out the presentation. I'm sorry, I just don't remember.
The cutoff date for people to submit letters and things, I want to say it's tomorrow, end of May.
Okay. If that's the case, then I'll get this out first thing in the morning. Rick has a question that says, is there a need for the variance other than financial gain? If the applicant team would like to address that.
Lee, do you want to take that one?
I mean, the setback relief is needed in order to have the development.
If you were, I guess I'll do a follow-up on that one, Lee. If y'all are denied this setback relief, since you are requesting 5 feet, is there a plan to request a different setback if you are not granted this one?
We'll have to reevaluate the entire development at that point. Is an honest answer.
Okay. right. We'll see if there are any other questions. Go ahead and submit them into the queue. And checking my email, I'll just double check the Google survey real quick, see if there were any else that came in. No. Okay. So seeing the questions come in, I will just run through these details again, and then we can wrap up this meeting. I'm going to confirm when the BZA cutoff is and get this PDF out to everyone so it can be shared on the listserv and go out to my email list. If you would like to email the BZA your opinion about this variance request, please email them at bza@nashville.gov. You're welcome to copy me on it. My email is kathleen.murphy@nashville.gov. If you have questions about anything else, please feel free to email me. I will do a quick plug that today was the last day of early voting. If you have not voted, please make sure to make your plan to vote next week. A lot of people, our district has really had a lot of people vote. The whole county has had a lot of people vote. So make your plan accordingly and prepare if you have not voted for Election Day. And just one more check if there are any other questions. Seeing none, feel free to email me, and I will go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you all for attending, and I hope this was a good process to have a community meeting. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your help. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.